Hi everyone, Veronica here. I am co-author of Soul Steps 52 Ways to Reconnect with Spirit. And my two co-authors, Natalie Finlay and Florence Strang, have already kicked off the Soul Pilgrimage over the last 2 weeks. I just want to touch on what a soul pilgrimage is, and I know Natalie and Florence have already done this. So I'll just do it too, so you get the idea of what we all have wanted to contribute here on this pilgrimage. So, a pilgrimage is usually a physical walk from one sacred place to another. And as you take this physical journey, you often have an emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical excavation or growth in consciousness. And I think that that's what we're doing here, just that. But instead of using our feet to take this physical journey, we are using our intuitive selves to take the steps. And instead of physical steps, we will be taking soul steps. 52, in fact, as you know, for one whole year of a soul pilgrimage. And each of these steps will hopefully lead you closer to who you are truly as a spiritual being, compassionate, loving, whole, worthy, intuitive, appreciative, wise, courageous human being. So welcome to week 3 of our soul pilgrimage. I'm going to start with teaching soul step number 1 called Spirit's Messengers. And this chapter is all about our emotional guidance system. And I want to talk to you about how to make your emotional guidance system work for you. Often people think that we are at the mercy of our emotions, but actually our emotions bring with them such valuable gifts and guidance that they are a tool for us to use. We're not to be thrown around by our emotions, but rather guided by our emotions. And I believe like we all have a light of consciousness within us. This light of consciousness, spark of consciousness, connects us to all other living beings on the planet. And when we experience drama, trauma, hurt, fear, grief, and loss in life, just through normal experiences of living here on earth, we often start to dim that light. We start to cover it up and it gets layered and darker. And I believe that it's our responsibility to uncover that light, to grow that spark, to let it become brighter and brighter, and to do that through growing awareness and expanding our personal consciousness. And one of the most important tools for doing that is using your emotional guidance system, as I said, for you. So one important aspect of this lesson that I hope you understand before you leave is that we don't just feel our feelings for the sake of feeling our feelings. We feel our feelings to release negatively charged energy. The energy as you feel it from the dramas and the traumas of your life. We want to emotionally digest them and eliminate the energy that's not needed. So I want you to try to think of this as maybe as an example of the way that we process our food. So you eat your food. Your body processes it and takes what it needs. And nutritionally, it takes the gift of nutrition and vitamins and minerals from the food. What's left over and what the body no longer needs, it eliminates. A simple analogy, but just an idea of how our emotions also work. So we have a thought, and an emotional response takes place in the brain and then runs through the body. And we can either go inward and be with that emotion and process it in a healthy way, taking the gift of the emotion and using it to guide our life, and then eliminating and getting rid of the excess negatively charged energy that we no longer need, being left with a healthy system. And just like food, if we don't eat the right food, or if we eat too much food, we can be left with excess fat or toxins in the body. The same is for emotions. If we don't take from it what we need, processing them in a healthy way, we can be left with a toxic environment in our emotional system, and our body holds on to this toxic environment, toxic emotions. And I'm sure you can all relate to that, holding on to anger instead of eliminating and processing it, holding on to resentment, judgment, and blame instead of feeling the feelings that go with those. And I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. Okay, so I want to say that I love teaching about emotions because as a hypersensitive person, I would say, an oversensitive person that some people may have called me over the years, and as 20% of the population is oversensitive, I suspect that it's more than that. I tend to be affected by other people's emotions and pick them up, and they affect my own personal energy. I tend to find sound and light in my environment overwhelming. I tend to feel pain probably more intense than maybe some other people feel. But being oversensitive has really caused me to want to find a way to manage my emotions, to manage my environment. And learning all about emotions and the emotional system has allowed me to do that, to manage anxiety, to manage overwhelm, and to prevent it in my life. So I hope that that's something that you can also take from learning to manage your emotions and use them for you. Now, whether you're hypersensitive or not, managing your emotions and understanding how they work and learning to process them can help you return to that state of brightness, as I talked about before. And this doesn't mean that you're not going to feel your emotions. And we have lots of uncomfortable emotions, and they're uncomfortable for a reason. They are uncomfortable so that we notice them. And we want to notice them so that we can go inward and then process them, give them our attention, validate them, and then eliminate the excess negative energy that we no longer need, but also to take the gift from the emotion that we felt. So our emotions are uncomfortable. I'll say that again because it's so important. They're uncomfortable for a reason. They're not good or bad. An emotion is not good or bad. It's actually a healing emotion, a healing feeling when it's processed in a healthy way. So what do we do when we normally feel discomfort? We try to run away from it. Just any discomfort, physical discomfort, but emotions are also a physical discomfort. So when you feel anger or sadness or fear or sorrow, disappointment or embarrassment, hurt, shame, just for an example, we can do things like we fidget and we tighten our muscles, right? We start to move. We start to shake a leg. We start to squeeze our muscles or tighten our shoulders. And we often run away from those feelings. We try to cover them up. We try to pretend they're not there. We try to push them away with different means of distractions. Repress, deny, minimize, whatever we can to pretend that emotion is not happening so we can move on with the business of enjoying our life. But then it becomes the elephant in the room. And isn't that so true? We have this big elephant in the room. We feel this big uncomfortable emotion. But what are we doing? Trying to pretend it doesn't exist. So let's think of all those ways we deny our emotions as beach balls. So all of us carry around about 5 beach balls. And we'll think of this as emotional balls that we have not processed, okay? And just for a minute, imagine you're floating in the ocean. You're enjoying a serene, hot, sunny day. And someone throws you a beach ball. Now you feel that this beach ball is your responsibility and you need to take care of it. So you push the beach ball underwater with one hand. And if you try to do this, really, it's not easy. You have to use a lot of energy to keep that beach ball underwater. Now imagine someone throws you another one, and you use the other hand to push that beach ball underwater. And then someone throws you 3 more, so you use a foot and another foot and your head, and before you know it, you're trying to balance in this amazing feat of acrobatic endurance, holding all those beach balls underwater. Excuse me. Now imagine that, and all you want to really do is float there and enjoy the serenity of your life and of the day. But now imagine that a boat goes by and makes a lot of waves, and it upsets your acrobatic feat of holding all your beach balls underwater. And all the beach balls come popping up, releasing with them all the emotions that go with them. And you're, all of a sudden you're in the middle of chaos and havoc in your life. And you get the picture. These beach balls represent our emotions that we are pushing and repressing and denying and holding underwater. And when these pressure times come in our life and we get emotional pressure put on us, that's when we tend to start having these emotional balls released, or bits and pieces of the emotion that's attached to them, often not even knowing why we're mad or angry or upset, because it's all still there in the body. It's all one of those beach balls we're trying to hold underwater. And when there's pressure put on us, it starts to come out. And it gets very tangly for trying to understand what's going on in our life. So, as I said, emotions are energy that are meant to flow. They're not meant to stay in the body. They're meant to move through the body, their energy and motion. And when we do keep them in the body, we tighten our muscles, we get wound up physically, and we get mental anguish. You can see how unreleased emotions then cause illness or disease over time. And Louise Hay has a great book out there talking about how disease, mental, physical, emotional, is all related to different thoughts we have in the body and different emotions that we have unreleased. It's a really great resource to helping you understand your emotions. So in fact, emotions are meant to flow through the body, and quite quickly. 1.5 minutes it takes for an emotion to move through the body. And this was researched by a neuroanatomist, Jill Bolte Taylor. I love her work. To feel an emotion, all we need to do is think a thought, she says, which then stimulates an emotional circuit in the brain, which in turn creates a physiological response in our bodies. But every time you replay the story, you re-trigger the circuit and that response in the body. By replaying the story, you not only keep your mind in a negative space, but your body experiences the pain created by the negative energy again and again and again. Now, I like to call this thinking your emotions. So instead of feeling your emotions, you're actually thinking your emotions, keeping the thought process, negative thought process going, keeping those unpleasant feelings being released again and again and again in the body, when actually it only needs to happen once. You feel the emotion, you go inward, you observe it, you take the gift that comes with it, and you process it through breath work or through observation. So, what does it mean to think our emotions? Often we think we're actually feeling the emotions. We actually think that we're feeling because we keep this brain circuitry going and we keep releasing these hormones into the body. So we actually think we are processing the emotion, but we're not. We get stuck in feeling the emotion. I want to give you some examples of what happens when you actually are stuck in thinking about your emotions and when you're feeling the emotion. So this is something I learned about 10 years ago in the spiritual life coaching program that I did, and it's one of my favorite things because the more you use it, the more skilled you get at learning how to use these tools. So for example, when you don't process your anger, when you don't feel your anger and process it in the body, you can get stuck in the brain looping thought process of blame. When you don't process fear in a healthy way and go inward and experience it in the body, you can get stuck in uncertainty and anxiety. The anxiety is the thoughts that you think in the brain that causes more of these negative circuitry to release negative hormones hormones in the body that cause upset. When you don't feel your healing feeling, your healthy feeling of frustration, you can get stuck in brain looping of judgment. When you don't feel a healthy feeling of embarrassment, you can get stuck in the brain looping of perfectionism. Just some examples, just short, quick examples of how blame and judgment and procrastination and perfectionism and resentment and self-pity and confusion and guilt are more about thought processes in the brain than they are about you feeling your emotions. It's a little tricky, but with practice you begin to understand. So let me just see where I wanted to go from there. So I want to say that when you experience this looping in the brain, this is the long road to healing. And when you learn to process your emotions, moving them through the body in 90 seconds, this is the short road to healing. When you take the gift of the emotion, process the rest of the energy, and then move back to a place of brightness. Now, let's take anger for an example. Anger is actually a healing feeling. But if you would allow yourself to feel anger, you receive the healing gift of healthy boundaries, loyalty, fairness. But when you don't allow yourself, as I was saying, to process anger, you move into the thought processes of blame. And you stay stuck there. You can stay stuck there for a very long time. When you allow yourself to feel your anger and you go inward, find out where it is in the body, how fast or slow is that energy moving. Give it a rating from 1 to 10. We'll talk about that in a moment. Then you can return to a place of balance and brightness. And then you deal with your anger. As Aristotle said, in the right way, I love this, to the right person, to the right degree, in the right place at the right time. And you can't do any of that when you're feeling the rush, hot flash of anger. You have to first process that, return to a place of brightness, and then a place of love, and then address your boundary issues. Many people try to address the issue while they are processing their emotion. And as you probably know, that usually doesn't go well. So my intention for this soul step is to hopefully bring into your awareness that your emotions are your tools. They are for you. They're not something that's done to you. They carry with them guidance and messages. And I'd love to share some of that with you, but we only have 20 minutes now. But I'll hopefully touch on a few of those gifts that you get from your emotions. But when you continue to resist your emotions, you continue to disconnect from your intuitive self. So let's make a commitment to learn everything we can about our emotions. Can you imagine when we make this commitment to teach our children, to learn for ourselves how to process our emotion in healthy ways? What kind of transformation we can bring to the world when we take responsibility for our own emotions instead of asking other people to do it for us. And we often do that, ask other people to help make us feel better. Ask other people to not make us angry. Ask other people to help us feel happy again. And that's all our own responsibility to grow that spark within us, to expand our consciousness and our awareness. And to do that, one way to do that is through our emotional system. And we can only do that for ourselves. And once you do it, you can teach that again to your children, to your spouse. You can be an example for other people. So I just got to turn my computer back on here because I can't see you anymore. Oh, there we go. Okay. I can't see the video anymore. Okay, so let's just do a little exercise now before we close this session. And I want to do two little exercises with you. One is one of the exercises I learned, like I said, about 10 years ago, and it's something I use still every day. And I love to use it for myself because it helps reminding me where I'm not processing and where I'm staying stuck in my head. And the other exercise is just learning to go within and feel those emotions and where they are in the body, and to learn how we can actually allow them to move through our body instead of staying stuck. Okay, so this is actually in the back of the chapter in Soul Step number 1. And we have a workbook section, as you probably know. We have a soul step, we have a soul message, and we have a soul focus. And you can read about these exercises there. So I'd like you to pick 3 of your top emotions, see if you can identify them. And this will just help you see your own emotional pattern so that you can start to do work in that area. So I'm going to read some healing feelings, and I want you to pick maybe your top 3, and then from that choose your top 1. So these are some healing feelings. Which ones do you experience the most? Anger may look like blame. Sadness, it may look like depression. Fear, it may feel like anxiety when you go to your thought processes. Sorrow, it may feel like indifference. Frustration, disappointment, worry, embarrassment, envy, hurt, scared, and shame. So just from that list, pick your top emotional feeling that you have the most. It's very common for you, or maybe pick your top 3. Now I'm going to ask you to take the emotion that you picked. Maybe it was frustration. Just think of a situation where you feel frustrated. Just let that frustration grow in your body. And know that frustration is an energy that helps you to persist when things take much longer than you expected. When you block your normal feelings of frustration, you'll usually become judgmental of yourself and others. Just feel yourself feeling frustrated. Think of the situation. Now we're going to process that. Stay with your emotion, whether it's anger, frustration, embarrassment. I want you to go inward, to focus your attention on your feelings inside of you. Try not to think about it. Don't let your feelings turn into thinking. Just be present and continue to observe. And this is a little process that I go through. If you feel sadness, where do you feel sadness in your body? Is it in your throat? Is it in your chest? Is it in your stomach? Now measure it from 1 to 10. 1 being not very sad at all, 10 being extreme sadness. What color is it? Is the energy fast or slow? Now give it a shape. Now we're going to take a minute and we're going to breathe into that energy in your throat or in your stomach. Taking 5 breaths, breathing in. Now pumping white light or just the air or just the energy of consciousness into that area. Maybe it's your throat. On the exhale. And breathe in. And pumping that energy into that space. And breathe in. And pumping that energy into that space. And one more time in. Pumping that energy into that space. Now just examining again. Has that energy changed? Is it still the same color? Is it a lighter color? Is the shape different? Does it now have the same boundaries? Maybe before it was a circle, maybe now it's something more loose. We would keep doing that until we can remeasure that emotion as a 1, 2, or a 3, something that's not being very intense, knowing that we've allowed that energy to move through our body. So I think that's all the time we have today, and I know that was a lot of information. I thank you for staying with me. And just as a little extra work around those 2 exercises, if you want to take your journal and take the one emotion that you identified and just finish the sentence. I feel sad because. And keep answering that sentence over and over and over again until you've exhausted all the reasons you feel sad. Just getting it down on paper, getting it out of your body. And then, because I feel sad, this lets you see how this sadness has been showing up, or what you do with that sadness that you've kept in your body, and how it shows up in your life. And then go back to your breathing exercises until you no longer feel that lump in your throat or that energy in your body. And that's just a quick little one way to move the energy of the emotions in the body. So thank you for your attention. I'll be back in 3 weeks' time with Soul Step number 2. I think it's called Forgive Others and Free Yourself. And Natalie and Florence will be back over the next 2 weeks with another Soul Step each. So I look forward to seeing you then. Bye-bye.